real estate market currently changing? I've got to set some ground rules before I can answer that question for y'all. The first ground rule is, I'm Leigh Brown. I'm a realtor in the greater Charlotte area of North Carolina and South Carolina. I cannot give you your best answer for other markets, whether they're in North and South Carolina or in other areas. Despite what you hear when you are reading national news sources or watching CNBC, there is no national real estate market. If you're wondering why, okay, pretend you're an astronaut. Everybody wanted to be one back in the Buzz Armstrong days. And so we are going to take ourselves up to the atmosphere, up to the space, up to where we can look down on the beautiful planet Earth. And when you look at the oceans from above, they all look this beautiful shade of blue, maybe a little bit of green, but it just looks like one general surface. But when you come down and you go down to the North Carolina coast and go out on the intercoastal waterway, you find out very quickly there's a main channel that's very deep. As you get over into the edges, when the tide is coming in and the tide is going out, it will expose sandbars, it will expose murky areas, you will see wildlife in the water. And what your reaction is depends on where you are in the water. Your real estate market is the exact same thing. Where you are in any marketplace is what determines how you react to changes in the water level, aka the real estate market. You can think about it in light of school districts. Which areas of your market behave the best? Generally where the best public schools are. And best means different things to different people, of course, but those areas tend to have a more insulated response to the market than a part of town that has a bigger challenge with the public schools. You can also look at what's happening with jobs, with retail, with DOT issues. There are so many things that can impact local values and local real estate markets. But when you're thinking about the real estate market, let's talk about the bigger picture items. Why are the markets behaving in a different way in 2024 than they did in 2021? Well, the most obvious one on the real estate side is interest rates. We were operating with historically low interest rates from about 2008 until 2022, which means we have an entire generation of home buyers that began to think of 3% on a 30-year fixed as normal. Y'all, that was never normal. That was a free money era. And I would just wager right now that you have a whole bunch of friends and family, maybe you, that wish you could get back in your time machine and go back and take advantage of those lower rates because they're not coming back. For all of you who are sitting there waiting on it to go back to the normal 3%, that was never normal. You've got to get your mind right that 6.5 is the norm and has been historically over a 40-year plus era. We had a weird moment in time. If you see that rates have gone from 7 to 6.25, that's when you say to yourself, ooh, it's on sale. But the changes from 3% to 6.5 have caused a lot of people to have to pull back their real estate dreams, which means our demand has fallen a little bit, or if the demand hasn't fallen, the demand has shifted. So the buyer who's qualified and ready to go maybe can't buy your house because now they've got to go find something less expensive. That's factor number one when we look at the overall market and what's causing it to change. Another factor you've got to watch is the jobs market. And a lot of people in real estate don't like to look at the jobs market, but you have to. Here in the Charlotte area, big article about Wells Fargo this past weekend in the Business Journal talking about the layoffs that are going on right now and more layoffs that are coming. Anytime you lose jobs in a marketplace, it can cause a hitch in your real estate market because it takes buyers out and it may put sellers in. And when you raise your supply and lower your demand, you're starting to change what the balance looks like. We've had an imbalance for several years now of many buyers and very little supply. As that starts to shift, there's one way we can really track that, y'all, and that's called days on market. Now let's talk about days on market in a way that will make sense to you, the consumer, because my real estate people, y'all probably already know this, but for you, Joe, the regular human, in a normal market, and so if we define normal as, since we've been tracking real estate data, normal is 6 months on market. And now go ahead and laugh, have your moment. You're like, Leigh Brown, you're crazy. I know it sounds crazy, but I've been in real estate a long time. And I can tell you that a long time ago, we would tell people 6 months is a normal amount of market time. for you to be in a balanced market where the buyers have many options and they can go out and look at 10, 20 houses on a Saturday, and then they can do it 4 Saturdays in a row. They weren't time constrained by thinking, oh my gosh, this house is going to get away. So they shopped and they were careful and thoughtful and read up on things. That's just gone out the window with this COVID market. But as we go back to normal market conditions, buyers tend to shop more. And you will too, Mr. Seller, when it's time for you to go buy. We just got everything out of whack. So 6 months is the norm. But let me give you a data point for today. Right now, for what's under contract in Charlotte, we have an average of 32 days on market, so a month. Now, I hope you're having that historical moment of, oh, well, that's not 6 months, Leigh Brown. I can deal with a month. It's all perspective, my friends. Even if you look back at 2021, a month on market would have made every realtor in the area say, oh my gosh, what's wrong with it? And every buyer too, because it sold in 32 minutes back then. Now we're at 32 days, which means that as you interview realtors, you got to ask them, if I need to sell faster than that, what do I need to do? Because as we move back into a normalized market, there are things that you need to be able to answer for to get that buyer to make a decision without continuing to shop. One of those items is staging. Staging is back in the marketplace. It allows us to make your house feel its best and to showcase its space and let somebody else envision themselves in there. Staging had fallen off. Now staging is back. You also may have to talk with us about price, because price has never been an exact science. And in fact, we knew that during the COVID era, because we could look at all the comps and select a price, and then here came offers that were way outside of it, and somehow it appraised and somehow people bought it. It was a very different market. Now, when we look at your house and we price it, we tend to price it in a range. So based on what else has sold, based on the overall market conditions, your house is worth-ish 300 to 350. So we're going to look at these ranges. And if you stick to the top end and stay there and stay there and stay there, the market can move while you are at your price. So part of your conversation with your realtor has to do with, at what point do you make an adjustment to find the market? Again, go back to the idea of water levels. And if you are hunting for fish, the lower the level of the water, the easier it is to spot the fish. Now, you're also oxygen starving the fish, but you can find them so you can catch one and get moved on. We'll have that conversation when you're ready to sell. But you should know 32 days is not horrible. However, make sure that wherever you are, your agent is talking to you about time on market and how to respond if your time frames need to be different than what's out there. What I want you to also know is that when the jobs market has hiccups, it does more than cause a supply and demand imbalance. It can also cause those exact price changes to get accelerated. A homeowner who does not have income to match their outflow and is having trouble replacing their job may find themselves in a position of, this needs to go, I need my equity out. And they might say at that point, sure, I'd like to get 100 out of the house, but I would take 85 to be out of here. So we do see people adjust their prices, not based on the market, but based on themselves. All of these things add up to how you respond to a fluid real estate market. That's what your realtor's here for, and we'll talk our way through it. By the way, we've been having these conversations for many years, and we know how to help you balance out your pros and cons to make good decisions. So if you're ready to buy or sell in the Charlotte area, give me a call. We'll talk data, we'll talk answers. And by the way, if you're the person who's completely allergic to the data points, we're just talking story time, because I want to make sure that you're educated and know what to do next.